Using lightning in video games is pretty cool, and I knew I wanted to implement something similar in my game. The challenge was that on the internet there are not many good resources showing how to do lightning the way I want, only using line renderers, existing paid assets, or just big blue orbs of lightning that it doesn't really work in my case. So I knew I had to create one myself, and that's what I want to share with you today. As always, I hopped into Unity 3D and got to work. What you see on screen now is actually the final result in a simple version of what I ended up implementing into my game. Okay, so let's get started. Obviously, as always, to make a particle effect, you right-click, go down to Create Effects, and Particle System. Now, normally by default, when you create a particle system, usually Unity will actually have, in Gizmo, Selection Outline checked. This drives me insane because then it really makes it difficult to see what the particle effect will look like when you're fully finished. So I always turn this off whenever I'm working with particle systems. Now, just super basics, what we want to do is make sure this is pre-warm, so when you actually run the game, it doesn't take a second for the particles to spawn. You want to have it set up already, which just makes things easier. Now, start lifetime. These exist for quite a long time. 5 seconds is a lot of time, so I'm going to change this to a random between two constants. And what we're going to do is make this 0.6 and 0.7, which basically just shortens the lifespan, so now we have a really short, lifespan of these particles. Now the start speed. Now we want to increase this from 5 to 15, so now they go a lot faster and a lot higher. Now for start size, we want these to be tiny, so we're gonna do also random between two constants and make this 0.05 and 0.1. So now it might be almost impossible to see, but if I zoom in, you can kind of start seeing the little particles flying by. Now I'm going to change the color to a nice blue, just because that is what we're going to be doing for this. And that is about all this is in the general settings. I always set it to play on awake, but you can turn this off depending on if you want to spawn it with a script or anything like that. And yeah, so next obviously we have emission. So I'm going to increase the rate over time to 30, just so we have a lot more going on. You see that increases it immediately. So now it makes it easier to see just because we have so much more. Now you don't need to have anything in bursts because we want this to be constant, but if you want to have like a 1, 2, 3, like over and over again type thing, you can definitely do that by messing around with these settings. I'm going to close that. Now in shape, by default, almost all particles start with a cone, which totally works if you want to do like lightning from hands or like a stream of lightning, like in Star Wars. But for what we're doing, what I did with the water is I made it a box. Like that, and I can change the way like this, and so now there's a lot larger surface area for them to be spawning from, and obviously this is going to be streams of lightning. But for now I'm actually going to make it a cone, just because I think that's what most people will use. So I'm going to lower the radius to 0.1, and then change the angle so it's a lot more defined, so it's something like this. I'm also going to rotate this a little bit so we can see it better. So that's all we need in shape. We also want color over lifetime. Now this is not necessary per se, but I always like to have it so it fades in really quickly and fades out really quickly rather than just disappearing. So at the top, I'm going to change the alpha to go all the way down to 0 and just add another one and make that all the way up to 255. Towards the end, also, we want to make this 255, and then right after it, we want to lower this down to 0. So now it has a really quick fade in and a really quick fade out. Now next, right now it's just a steady stream of particles. We want to kind of add some variation to their movement. So what we're going to do is turn on some noise. Now you'll see already it kind of makes the stream a little more wobbly, but we want like sharp peaks up and down because it's lightning, so we're going to change this a lot. So strength, I'm going to make this 5. Now, you'll instantly notice that it makes it a lot more varied, kind of like a wave. But obviously, we want this to be a lot sharper, so we're going to increase the frequency to something like, I guess, 3. So now you can see it's a lot more varied. Right now, because these are tiny little particles and not straight lines, it makes it difficult to see exactly, but if you follow these settings, it will do exactly what you want. Now next, the way we want the streams, the actual lines, is by turning on trails, which is all the way down here. Now, if I just check that off instantly, we have these, I guess, lightning effects. They're completely this pinkish purple because there's no material assigned to them. So it says down here, assign a trail material in the render module. But I want to just mess with this a little bit. In the minimum vertex distance, this is essentially how far between the changes in height can be. So I'm going to change this 0.05. So now we can get a lot shorter distances between the peaks there. Close this, and now there is the renderer settings. Now obviously everything needs to have a renderer, every particle effect needs to have something rendering. So for render mode, I'm going to change it from billboard, which basically means it always follows the camera, to none. Now of course this is where you assign the material. Now because the lines, the actual trails are coming out of the small particles, it's the trails that matter and not the particles themselves. So the particles can just be whatever you want because they're so small you're not going to see them. But for the trail material, you're going to want something that is soft so you can kind of stretch it. So I created a default Unity material. I'm going to drag this right into the trail material. So now that there is a material assigned, you kind of get this, but it's kind of this weird gray color, very metallic. And again, it's still not what we want. So what you want to do is create a material that is actually of type particle effect. Now I have one made for an explosion effect, but you'll see if you look up here, it has this really soft outline, and it's just the shader is legacy shaders, particles, additive. So you can do that. You can create one yourself. This is just a straight texture I got from the internet. And yeah, so now what I'm going to do is take this material and assign it to the trail material. And now instantly, you'll notice if you zoom in, you have that nice soft edge, and that is because of the explosion material that is basically just stretching for the entire length of it. And yeah, that's basically it. You can change this color obviously to whatever you want. You can make it red if you want. But I think the blue is like the classic lightning, so we're gonna leave it like that. Now, what I did, I have underneath it, I have another particle system that is essentially the same thing, which is rotated up towards the sky. And that's how you get these little lightning sprigs kind of coming up, which gives it a lot more depth. And that's how I made the lightning effect in the video. Hope you can use this information. Thank you so much for watching.